The afternoon was shattered by the wail of sirens, slicing through the suburban calm like a knife. A fire truck, lights blazing red, roared down our quiet street in Pine View Meadows, its horn blaring with urgency. I stood frozen in my driveway, expecting it to speed past towards some unseen disaster. But instead, the massive rig screeched to a halt, its tires squealing against the asphalt. There, sprawled across the fire lane like it owned the road, was Lisa Thompson's gleaming white SUV, parked sideways in a defiant barricade. Lisa herself stood next to it, arms crossed, her face a mask of righteous fury, completely blind to the chaos she'd unleashed. Smoke was rising from the woods just 2 streets away, and she was still yelling at me about my trash cans. It all started 3 months ago when I moved into Pine View Meadows, a cozy little neighborhood that seemed like the perfect place to settle down. That is, until I met Lisa, the iron-fisted president of the Homeowners Association. She'd been ruling the HOA for 6 years, treating its bylaws like they were carved in stone by some higher power. With her sleek brunette bob, pristine yoga outfits that never saw a drop of sweat, and a smirk that screamed she'd never been told no, Lisa was a force of nature. My first run-in with her came the day I put up my mailbox apparently. The numbers were a half-inch too small. Then it was my little ceramic frog by the garden, which she claimed VY-OLAT, the aesthetic code. I thought I could handle her, but I had no idea what I was in for. That day, at exactly 2:15 p.m., I rolled my trash cans to the curb for the next morning's pickup. I'd barely turned back toward my house when Lisa's SUV came tearing around the corner, tires screeching like she was chasing a fugitive. She slammed to a stop right behind my car, trapping me in my driveway, and stormed toward me with a copy of the HOA rules clutched in her manicured hand. "You put those cans out 18 hours early," she barked, while VYing the rulebook like a prosecutor presenting EVY Denke. The bylaws state clearly trash cans go out after 6 p.m. the night before collection. No exceptions. I tried to explain that I had an early meeting and wouldn't be home later, but Lisa wasn't VYing it. "That's not my problem," she snapped, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. When I moved a step around her toward my front door, she planted herself in my path, one finger raised like a schoolteacher scolding a kid. "Oh, we're not done here," she said, her voice climbing. "You've been flouting our standards since you moved in. First, your mailbox, then that tacky frog, and now this trash violation." I could feel my patience fraying, but I kept my cool. "Lisa, I get that you're serious about this, but I have a work call to prep for," I said calmly. That's when her face went from irritated to outright furious. "Oh, no you don't," she practically shouted. Before I could blink, she was stomping back to her SUV, keys jangling. "You're going to stand here and listen to every word I have to say about your disrespect for this community." Then, in a move that still boggles my mind, she cranked the engine and maneuvered her SUV into the most absurd position possible sideways across the fire lane that ran right in front of my house. The vehicle now blocked both the lane and my driveway, a perfect wall of entitlement. "You're not going anywhere until you admit you broke the rules and swear to follow them," she declared, slamming her door with a dramatic flourish. I stood there, dumbfounded, as the faint wail of sirens began to creep into the air. Lisa launched back in her tirade about property values and community pride, oblivious to the neighbors starting to peek out their doors. Mrs. Nguyen across the street was pointing toward the trees, and old Mr. Callahan was already dragging his garden hose out. Then I saw a thin plume of black smoke curling up from somewhere near Elm Street, just 2 blocks away. The sirens grew louder, sharper, but Lisa was too deep in her lecture about trash schedules to notice. I tried to cut in, pointing at the smoke. "Lisa, there's something happening, look." But she just stepped closer, her voice rising to a snarl. "Don't you dare change the subject. This selfish attitude is exactly what's ruining neighborhoods like ours." The sirens were deafening now, drowning out her words. Red lights flashed off the windows of houses down the street, growing brighter as the fire truck barreled toward us. Lisa kept ranting undeterred until the truck rounded the corner like a beast unleashed, its horn blasting so loud it rattled my chest. But instead of speeding past, it slammed to a stop just 50 feet away, blocked by Lisa's SUV. The driver leaned on the horn, three long, furious blasts that should have stopped anyone in their tracks. Lisa barely glanced over. "Can't they see we're in the middle of something?" she muttered, while VYing at the truck like it was a pesky delivery van. Then she turned back to me. "Now, where were we?" I couldn't believe it. The firefighters didn't wait for her to finish her speech. Three of them leapt from the truck, boots pounding the pavement as they jogged toward us in full gear. The captain, a grizzled man with eyes that had seen too many emergencies, approached Lisa with a calm but unyielding tone. "Ma'am, move your vehicle now. We're responding to a structure fire on Elm Street, and you're blocking our route." Lisa looked at him like he'd just asked her to scrub her own floors, her arms tightening across her chest. "I'm handling official HOA business," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "This man has VYOLAT multiple community standards, and we're not done here." The captain's jaw clenched, and the other firefighters exchanged glances of pure disbelief. "Ma'am, there's a house burning less than half a mile away," he said, his words slow and deliberate. "Every second matters, and you're stopping us from doing our job." Lisa just shrugged, gesturing at my trash cans like they were the real crime. "Maybe people should think about that before breaking the rules," she said smugly. That's when I heard car doors slamming. Two police cruisers pulled up behind a fire truck, lights flashing. Neighbors had called 911, reporting someone blocking emergency vehicles, and the officers weren't here to chat. A tall sergeant, her badge glinting in the afternoon sun, marched straight to Lisa while her partner started redirecting traffic. "Ma'am, move your vehicle immediately," she said, her tone VYing no room for debate. Lisa actually laughed a sharp, grating sound. "Officer, I'm the president of the Pine VYEW Meadows HOA, she announced, like it was a royal title. She whipped out her phone, VYing photos of my trash cans in the sergeant's face. "This resident has repeatedly ignored our rules, and I'm not VYing until this is resolved." The sergeant glanced at the phone, then at the fire truck, then back at Lisa with a look that could have stopped a charging bull. "Ma'am, you're obstructing emergency SARE VYCES, which is a serious crime. Move your vehicle now, or it'll be towed, and you'll be arrested." Lisa's smirk faltered, but her stubbornness held firm. "You can't arrest me for enforcing community standards," she said, though her voice wavered. That's when the fire chief arrived, his face red with barely contained rage. He'd left the fire scene to deal with this mess, and his voice boomed across the street. "Because of this delay," he said, every word heavy with 25 years of firefighting experience, "we've lost critical minutes. The house on Elm Street is now fully engulfed, and we've had to send crews on foot with hand tools because we couldn't get our ladder truck through." Lisa's face drained of color, but she still tried to hold her ground. "I was just doing my job as HOA president," she mumbled. The fire chief's eyes burned into her. "Your job doesn't include endangering lives." The sergeant had heard enough. She signaled her partner and pulled out her handcuffs. "Lisa Thompson, you're under arrest for obstruction of emergency SARE VYCS, reckless endangerment, and illegal parking in a fire lane." As the cuffs clicked around Lisa's wrists, her mouth fell open, and she started sputtering about her rights as HOA president. The second officer called for a tow truck, and the firefighters jogged back to their rig, racing to salvage what they could of the Elm Street fire. 3 weeks later, I sat in the municipal courtroom, watching Lisa face the music. She'd hired a flashy lawyer who argued she was just fulfilling her duties as an elected official. But the prosecutor had damning EVY dense body cam footage from 3 officers showing Lisa's refusal to move, despite repeated warnings. The fire chief testified about the delay's devastating impact, and several neighbors spoke up about Lisa's years of bullying and power trips. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, listened with growing impatience. When it was time for sentencing, she fixed Lisa with a stare that could have melted steel. "Ms. Thompson, your actions showed a shocking disregard for public safety. You endangered lives and property over a petty dispute about trash cans. The gavel came down as she delivered the verdict. 60 days of community service VYC, a doula, 5,000 fine, and a 5-year ban from any HOA position. Lisa's face went white, her lawyer scrambling to talk about appeals that everyone knew would go nowhere. As I walked out of the courtroom, I couldn't help but think about how Lisa's obsession with control had spiraled into this. She turned a quiet neighborhood into a battleground, all because she couldn't let go of her little fiefdom. The fire on Elm Street had caused thousands in damage, and though no one was hurt, the what-ifs lingered like smoke in the air. What do you think? Did Lisa deserve her punishment, or was the system too harsh on her? Should HOA presidents have the power to enforce rules like this, or are they just bullies hiding behind bylaws? Have you ever dealt with someone like Lisa in your neighborhood? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more real-life drama.